Welcome, beautiful people, to Curating Black Thoughts podcast. This is a safe space for Black folks from all walks of life to discuss the difficult conversations. Here, we're not trying to agree or disagree per se, but we are trying to communicate our differences, our similarities, and our common goals so we can get to a better understanding and we can start supporting each other, y'all. Thank you for joining the Love Village. I'm your host, Quincy J. Roberts Sr., and you have just been queued up.
I'm mad. I'm ready. I'm mad. I'm ready. I'm mad. I'm ready. I'm mad. I'm ready. I'm mad.
Welcome, Love Village. Today, it's been a blessing to just be alive this week. And we've had a lot of conversations, side conversations. So this podcast is amazing. It's going to be amazing today. I always say when your body tries to destroy you, it's something profound when a Black man has to fight racism and fight their demons, whether it's mental health or physical health, and they survive through it. So I am so excited to talk to some individuals that have given us some examples, some real life examples of survival. So today we're talking Black men and surviving COVID-19. I want to first introduce our two survivors. We have former counselor Tito Jackson. Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Thank you so much, Quincy. My name is Tito Jackson. I am a Black man from Roxbury, Massachusetts. I'm a former Boston City councilor, served on the council for 7 years. I'm currently a CEO of a cannabis company called Verdant Medical, and I survived COVID-19. I got it in mid-March. And actually had to quarantine based on the time that they identified me with actually having the illness. I was quarantined for about a month.
Thank you. Next, we have Demetrius Upchurch out of Chicago. Introduce.
Hello, I'm Demetrius Upchurch. I am now based in Chicago, Illinois. I am also a survivor of COVID. I acquired COVID in mid-March, right when the shutdown first started. So I didn't actually get a diagnosis because they wouldn't test me and because they didn't have tests. So I had to get the antibody test afterwards. But they test me for everything else other than COVID. And all those tests came back negative, from the common cold, from the flu to strep, through a battery of tests. And I was sick for about a little over a month.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be deep. So thank you both for sharing. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into your experiences because we have a lot of questions from our viewers. So this is going to be deep. So get your tissues and your tea or whatever you need to be zen. So, like they both said, indirectly or directly, COVID-19 has affected us all, and everybody on this phone call has been affected by racism. So, in order for us to heal, I wanted to have this conversation, a purposeful conversation. So we also have on the line, we have Donzel Lampkins to kind of help us with the mental health aspect, because everything that I do, we don't want to just have conversations. We want to have solutions with those conversations. So Donzel is going to really help us kind of dive into next steps and some solutions. So can you introduce yourself, Mr. Lampkins?
Greetings, I'm Donzel Lampkins. I'm a licensed psychotherapist based in Chicago, Illinois. And I'm so grateful to be here today because there are a lot of psychological effects of two pandemics that we're in, a racial pandemic as well as a uh, health pandemic, and even a third pandemic that I think is really important in this integration of both race and health, which is a financial pandemic. We are in a recession, which is under discussed, and I think they all intertwine because our economy has shut down in many industries, and that can negatively impact one's health as well as their mental health. And so I'm so happy to be here to provide some context to some of those experiences and what to look for and how to address it.
Right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And shout out to Chicago. We have two people from Chicago on the line. And we do have a lot of people from Chicago in that area, that Midwest area that watch us on YouTube. So shout out to Chicago, but it's always Boston. Right, Councilor Jackson? Former Councilor Jackson. It's always Boston. So all right, so now we know the players. Let's go ahead and get into the game. First question goes to Mr. Jackson. Walk us through briefly the first 24 hours of you being tested positive with COVID-19. What was going through your head? That was the biggest question I got online. So I wanted to start off with that question. What was going through your head for those first 24 hours? Not the next, but the first 24 hours.
Thank you for the question, Quincy, and I feel like in solidarity with you brothers, just to be able to discuss this, because Donzel just like really hit on some really important stuff, and we'll get there later. So for me, I think I need to contextualize. Like you, Quincy, I'm a very social person, and I know a lot of people, and so I don't feel like I took COVID-19 as serious as I should have. And I just want to own that part of it. I in the beginning, I kind of, was socially distancing. I run my own company, so I don't necessarily have to be with folk all the time. I also did feel like I wanted to support businesses. So the Wednesday prior to me getting sick, I got sick on a Saturday. I went to Slade's, and if you brothers come here post. The Chicago brothers come post COVID, we'll get you some great fried chicken, and we don't have any medical doctors on the line, so we won't even go there. But so I went to grab some food, and if you can recall, this is the time in which many folks were saying that Black people didn't get COVID. There was a good week right there, right? That folks were like, nah, we're not getting that, whatever. And there's a basketball player touched all the microphones and then ended up having COVID the next day. Yep. Long story short, I had gone out on a Wednesday, grabbed some food. I ended up staying for a comedy show, interacted with a lot of people, then also dropped some food at a friend's house. That was a Wednesday. Saturday, I started with just a slight sore throat and also a slight cough. Not a big deal. I have sinus issues, kind of happens on a regular basis. But 24 hours after that, that's Sunday. I just woke up with sweat through my shirt, and I had a headache. That Monday, the following a week and a half, meaning the next Monday, I got a call from a friend who said, "Hey, I have corona, and so you got to go get checked out. We had dinner together. You got to get checked out." So one, you know, it confirmed what was happening in my body. I started having really bad joint aches. I felt like someone took a needle and was jabbing it through my knees and jabbing it through my ankles. So I had this really sharp pounding pain in my ankles. I started having really bad back pain. I started having labored breathing. I had elevated temperature for the whole time. And then I also lost the taste in my mouth, as well as the smell, which as you've seen me, Quincy, so I ain't missed many meals. In terms of that first 24 hours, I would say it was scary. It was in some ways somewhat, and this is a weird thing to say, there was some comfort because I knew what I had. Right, because you're just freaking out because you're like, what's going on? But it was also scary because at that point in March, you're watching TV. People don't know anything about this disease, and all you see is all these charts with people just dying. Yeah. And so it was a really spiritual time for me where I had to literally get down on my knees and pray and get right with my God to make sure that my mind was right, because I realized I was in a battle, and it was a mental battle where I was like, yo, y'all, you ain't getting me, COVID-19. And I know if I had not mentally taken care of myself, I would have ended up in the hospital, like some others. And I come from a background of being in the medical industry. There's a whole host of other stuff that you can get in the hospital that's not even corona related that we're not even going to talk about right now. So that was for me one of the difficult things. Although the testing was easy here, and we were able to get, I was able to get the test. And then I also, lastly, Quincy, in the first 24 hours, I had to have some of the most uncomfortable conversations with friends. Ironically, I felt like I had to call all my friends and basically tell, I was joking. I just said it's like calling somebody and telling you had an STI. Yeah. And basically yeah, I need to go ahead and tell you something. Saturday night was crazy, and I had to call 5 or 6 friends and let them know, and we had conversations about when we got, when I last saw them and my symptoms. So that was my first kind of 24 hours in context.
And thank you, as I was going to say, thank you for sharing that, because, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into what friends were saying and all that other stuff, but you were one of the first public figures that came out with COVID-19 that I knew, after, some of the basketball players and rappers and stuff like that. But you were one of the, and the closest public figure. And I think around that same time, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, they thought she had it. So I remember the two of you being very vocal about that. So I appreciate that. So Demetrius, you have a different kind of experience by finding out through the antibody test, which I know a lot of people have tested or found antibodies in their system through that test. Talk about your 24 hours just knowing that you had COVID for a fact.
Well, it was, let me see, relief, because I knew I had COVID. I knew I've been exposed to, I was at a conference with 2 people that tested positive in New York. And with that information, I still was unable to be tested. Even with the symptoms.
We'll get into that a little bit later.
So,
what's going on, why you can't, but
and then it was just like a lot of people in my life are conspiracy theorists and believe that me being sick was just like like the media produced that feeling for me.
Mm.
So it was um so it was relief. But then it was also people that was like, oh, those antibody tests they're giving false positives. Like, it's still a lot of disbelief around COVID in the community, and that people feeling like it's a media created phenomenon. So I felt relief. I felt relief that my family didn't get it, and that my grandmother didn't get it. But I definitely felt like I knew it, and I just felt a great sense of relief.
So after that relief, I just want to get in your head a little bit. After that relief, what was the next like emotion? Like, okay, now I was like, woo, I have COVID, but I can't imagine you because I know you. I can't imagine you celebrating. Like the relief is good, you know it. But what's next after that relief? What was going through your mind as a black man, educated black man that is also in the education field? Like you are responsible for a lot of minds in Chicago.
I definitely felt I I I felt conflicted. I felt conflicted because I'm trying to tell people, I'm trying to be a voice of reason when there's a lot of um alternative facts out there that people are subscribing to and are taking as truth. So, you know, I'm telling people, I had COVID. This is serious. Like I thought I was gonna die, and people were still like, I'm not wearing a damn mask. You can't, like, you believe that, like, it's just still, I feel like I'm in the twilight zone with
Mm.
a lot of people that I care about.
Likewise, and that's one of the main reasons for this conversation. Because brother, and both you and Tito, courageous to even be speaking about this. Because what a lot of people don't know, I mean, I go out. I've been out in the last 5 months, but I have been struggling so much with going outside. I am, as Tito said earlier, I am a social butterfly. My job is to be in the community, but I am terrified. So, and I was one of those people who's like, oh, this is something made up. But when I started to see, and I'm gonna go back to you, Tito, on this one, when I started to see people that, you know, are public figures, like public figures don't tell their business, no matter, despite the despite the myth. Public figures, they're not as public as people think. So when I see a lot of people that I admire, they're like, hey, they don't have any reason to be in a conspiracy theory. So it got me in a place where anxiety is like through the roof. So I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm gonna go back to you, Tito. Why do you think it's so important for public figures and people who have, a bigger platform, a huge platform to be honest about this pandemic?
So I want to thank Demetrius for giving voice to this weird piece, right? So you're like actually it actually gave me some comfort to know what was going on in my body, which is just a weird thing because you're actually identifying that there's a deadly illness potentially in you. But I would say for me, I purposely went public because people were saying that Black people did not get corona. And as Demetrius knows, you can feel it. I know what my body, my status quo normal piece in my body. I know I always have an appetite. I know all of those things that are physically normal for me. And so I felt like knowing, one, I had been in a room with a couple of hundred people. And then you also don't necessarily know when you technically have it. I thought, one, it was important for me to go public with it for that reason. In addition, I needed to lead. Even in my most difficult time, where you have a platform to be able to educate people, let them know to protect themselves, and also that this is a serious illness that can take you out of here. And it literally, from a battle perspective, you feel your body battling with the illness. You feel when I had to set a alarm clock to make sure that I was eating because I didn't have a an appetite. I thought that was critical. And then also the last piece is illnesses always disproportionately affect Black people, and in particular Black men, right? So this whole piece around Black people ain't gonna get, bro, I don't know too many things. The only disease state that I know that Black people get less is osteoporosis, right? So all of the four brothers on here, we'd have to be postmenopausal, and then two, we would actually be able to have menopause. There's a whole lot of stuff that's not gonna happen. So therefore, there's no other disease state that I've ever seen. So I felt like I had to get forward and lead. And to your point, Quincy, be a real person that people know, that folks are like, okay, he got it, so I could possibly get it.
Absolutely. And I applaud you for that. And thank you. And thank you for actually speaking on the podcast, because you could have been anywhere else, but you're here. So I appreciate that. Future Dr. Donzel Lampkins, I want to bring you in on this conversation because we're gearing towards the health and the mental wealth. So in Chicago alone, because when I found out I had two people from Chicago, I really wanted to get the stats. And we talked about this a little last night. In Chicago, Black people make up 68% of COVID-related deaths and only make up 30% of the population. So for me, when I saw that and I looked at that and I saw the nice fancy graph, I'm like, that's genocide. So with all that going on, and as Tito said and Demetrius said, we have all these things going on in the Black community that we have proven that take it serious. Why do you think Black people don't take mental wealth or mental health seriously?
That's a great question. And I think that we have to look at the historical context. And for me, I definitely think it dates back to enslavement, where we were discouraged and forbidden to express our emotions, to have our physical needs met, let alone our emotional needs met. We were, stripped of our rights. We were stripped of our autonomy, of our freedom. So that is something that, in my professional opinion, is a form of intergenerational trauma and even post-traumatic slave syndrome. And so those traumas, it's made it difficult for us to be comfortable with our emotions, because we are accustomed to being numb, to ignoring them, to suppressing them. And that could play out in many different ways, from culture to shame to fear. But I think we are doing a great job of beginning those conversations in a lot of Black spaces. I think we're doing a better job of realizing that the mind, body, and spirit are all connected, and that it's essential for us to have holistic health. And that gives me hope. And that gives me hope. We still have a long way to go to, really debunking the myths surrounding mental health, addressing the discomfort that may accompany our emotional distress, as well as removing any stigmas or shame that may be accompanied with it. And that may look like having those individual conversations with family members or with friends, checking and challenging problematic statements or limiting views that may be portrayed on shows that we may watch, or in the music we may listen to, and really becoming comfortable with marching to the beat of your own drum and doing what you know is right for you.
Thank you. With my two survivors, I have another question from one of our online audience, and it's a very direct question. So just brief yourself for this one. Demetrius, did you? And this goes along with the mental health that we just finished talking about. Did you ever think? And you said you were down for a month, right?
At least,
At
at
least
least,
a month.
at
So in those
least.
30 days, did you ever think that you were going to die?
I I thought I was gonna die a lot. I even thought about um, taking my own life
Hmm.
because I too am a very outgoing and social person,
Hmm.
and so to be isolated from everyone in that long, I mean, even in my own house, I had to be in one room, so I couldn't interact with my children. I couldn't interact with my wife. Like it was just literally, work had stopped. Well, I was doing virtual because I'm an educator,
Hmm.
and then just navigating that until they passed some laws to protect you. It was just really difficult, and I remember, just feeling really um, like people think I'm seeking attention, and
That's definitely not the case because I keep up with pretty much everything you say online, and I
yeah,
do not remember seeing anything. I was shocked. We remember we had the conversation. I'm
yeah,
like, you had COVID? I thought I would know that. But brother, I
yeah.
I,
People thought I
I
was
want to
attention
know.
seeking.
I want to know how you. What was your coping mechanism? Like, what were you doing in those 30 days that because you couldn't talk to your kids? And I know how much you love your kids and your family and your wife. How, like, thinking about death, contemplating suicide, how, what kind of got you out of that? Like, what made you start to think like, let's keep going, moving forward?
Um, well, actually, I first talked to a life coach because COVID just really exacerbated things that were already there.
Mm.
And so I talked with the life coach just about career stuff and just about like promises I didn't keep to myself. I think that when you're that sick and you're facing this unknown, you really think about your legacy and the things you've done and the things you haven't done and the things that you told yourself you were going to do that maybe you did not do yet. So I definitely thought about a lot of those things, about promises I made to myself that I keep putting on the back burner. And then I started therapy. During the time I was sick, I was doing teletherapy with St. Psychology Services in Chicago. So it was there because I really did feel like if I was strong enough to, because I got my gun put up higher, because I have children. So if I was strong enough to go get the ladder and climb up there, there were moments where I felt like that. I just felt that miserable, and I felt that I felt a tremendous amount of anxiety.
Mm.
And so like I thought about dying a lot during that time.
Brother Demetrius, I don't know your middle name, Upchurch, you are loved, you are valued. We need you to survive. So please
Yeah.
don't climb that ladder unless somebody try and break in the house. Climb on up that ladder. But other than that, don't climb that ladder, bro. Don't climb that ladder. We need you to survive. Brother Jackson, same question for you. Did you ever think you were going to die?
I did. I just want to take a second and just thank Demetrius for his transparency. I love you, brother. Just met you. And I believe that we are all sent here on assignment and that none of us is sent here to do small stuff. And it sounds like you're already doing huge stuff. And I just look forward to continuing to connect with you as you continue that assignment. Quincy, for me, it was feeling like it could go either way. When you and I also want to give voice to and the courage and love on those folks who've had cancer or any long-term illness,
Absolutely.
because I was down for a month, and I have several friends who've had several bouts with cancer, and to have that consistent optimism that wins out over the pessimism over the course of time, I just got to love on them for that, because this is a month I had never, other than when I got my tonsils out, had never spent a overnight stay in the hospital for me. Never really been sick like that. So I felt like it could go either way. I began to look at making sure my will was in order, insurances, paperwork, making sure that all that stuff is right. What helped me immensely was my family started a Sunday prayer. And it's a Black family, so we pray for like 40 minutes, and then we on the phone for like, we on the Zoom for like, 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
We taught my mama how to use Zoom, and that's a whole nother conversation for her to get on Zoom. But it was interesting for me. So I'm one of 8. I'm adopted. I have two moms. I have my mom who adopted me when I was 2 months old, and I recently 2 years ago met my biological mom. So there's all this stuff kind of going into that. So I kind of have also these 2 families who are praying for me, which is pretty cool. But my immediate family, we get on at 4:00 every Sunday, and it's just been so uplifting. I think one of the other pieces, Quincy, it's been uplifting to there's a thing that has happened for me in Corona where, because of the amount of time that I've had, memories, things that I should have done, conversations I've had and didn't have, all of them have kind of caught up to me. And as Demetrius was talking about, like, hey, I've done some stuff in my life, but there's a bunch of stuff that I really want to do. And I am so much more deliberate on a day-to-day basis about making that call, about completing that task, and about literally dreaming my real dream. I found that prior to COVID, I had in many ways been my own blessing blocker and restricted my dreams and aspirations to what is realistic rather than what is possible. And so I want to let folks know we have an opportunity to seize our day even more so. And I don't know how Demetrius feels, but like literally, I feel like I've been given a new life. Like it's just like I like literally, and I like wake up just different. This thing just hit so different.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you both. And it's interesting that you brought up the will thing, because Tito, just being transparent and honest, when my grandmother tested positive, and she's in a nursing home in North Carolina, which is a terrible place to be during COVID, but that's another story on another day. But when she tested positive and the family could not go in. We were like just waiting for different texts, and it was like 2 weeks of me just waiting. I'm sitting in meetings, just not there. After she, survived COVID, I said, you know what? I gotta take a look at a will. I gotta write some stuff down. Like it just like shit just got real serious. Not to say that I've never done that before, because I kind of do that every 2 years. I start to think of stuff like that. But you just hit it, bro. I really started to think about what am my legacy, as Demetrius said. What is my legacy? So, brother Donzel, we have, even before COVID, we've had people struggling with mental health and depression, anxieties, suicidal thoughts. Now with COVID, how has your practice, how has it changed, and how has it influenced you to kind of either move in a different direction or in a better direction, if that is the case?
Absolutely. So I think the main changes has been the delivery of services. Prior to COVID, most people were seen face to face, and that's how mental health services were delivered mostly. I utilized teletherapy, so whether that's via phone or video, I used it in
And
certain
if
cases like
this is nationwide, right?
yeah, this is nationwide. I mean, I'm speaking from the I, but nationwide, a lot of mental health services changed from being face to face to being virtual.
And the reason why I say, when you explain
Mhm.
your services, I want people to know that they can take advantage of these services, because we've had a episode, actually 2 episodes on mental health, and we've had therapists, and then people always ask me afterwards, is like, can I reach out to them? I'm like, it's a free country, you can do whatever. So if it's available for people, I would love for you to share how we can get in contact with you. But sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no need to apologize. I appreciate that clarity. So, in terms of the delivery of services, it really for all of us, many of us, were really we really needed to rise to the occasion of being flexible in how we deliver services. And so the main two being via video or uh, phone calls. But there are some mental health services that's providing text services, mental health services through text messaging, which is, I think, unique, but has become more mainstream because originally you may text a crisis lifeline, and they use text to kind of eliminate some of the awkwardness of speaking to someone in person and just kind of make the person feel more comfortable. But people are starting to use that more and more as a mainstream service. And so that's been a really interesting change as well. And then in terms of insurance or licensure, I think that this has passed now, and I think this goes well into my availability for services. So originally, you could not provide services to individuals who lived in states that you are not licensed in. So for me, I'm licensed in Illinois and Iowa. So I originally could not see clients outside of those states. However, with COVID, the uh, licensing board made an exception to where if you had your license in one state, it was honored in other states just to meet the mental health needs. And so that was another change for me. I was seeing clients who reside in Mississippi and who reside in uh, Kentucky, and really
No Boston?
having
You don't have anybody from Boston?
not at this time, but
You will.
I will hopefully. And so now I think that honorarium may have been lifted. So I think now, so for me to kind of address that gap, if someone's interested in services with me, I could be reached at Donzel Post, DonzellPost. And one thing that I wanted to do was kind of provide a bridge, because there's a lot of people who may fear mental health services, who may, or whose concerns may not be life threatening, they may not be severe. So I have mental health consulting services where I'm providing evidence based approaches to address mild to moderate mental health concerns. And that will allow me to work with anyone in any state. And so I have that, and that link is in my bio on my Instagram page, and you're able to read more about those services and things. But I would say those were some of the major changes, but I will say that there's been an increase in the request for services, but there were, you know, some decrease in services as well that many therapists experienced, because people's lives became busier, people became more distressed, and there were more urgent things that people had to do, which kind of made it difficult to maintain some of their appointments and things. And so for me, I'm always flexible. And so you know, it's not uncommon for me to see people in the evening, to see people on the weekend, to maintain the continuity of care and to make sure that no one falls through the gaps. And so I think those are just some changes, just to name a few.
Oh, thank you. And we have to definitely meet people where they are. So going into the second half, I'm going to go to Mr. Jackson on this one. Um, so you walked us through what it was like to have COVID, and you survived it. We see you here live in the flesh. What's next? Like, did your friends treat you any differently? And I know I want to reverse that question. I don't want to say friends, because I know your friends were very loyal and dedicated to you, and they were some of the ones that helped you. What about the people surrounding you? And I would say you as a public figure, do people treat you different? And the reason why I'm asking this question, and please no one on the line take offense to this, but when I hear of COVID now, and this is part of my anxiety, I think of the HIV and AIDS epidemic, and how a lot of people, even now in 2020, once people find out that someone is HIV positive, they just treat them like the worst. So I'm seeing similarities, not the same, like they're the exact same thing, but I see the similarities. So I want to know, what has life been like after COVID for you?
Yeah, so I would say a couple pieces. One, I want to thank Brother Donzel, because we need to like clone that brother. I don't know if it's legal,
Yes.
but it's probably not legal. But we need so many more Black people
We're going to
who are
clone them services, though.
yeah, exactly, who are in his space, because sitting across from a Black face, knowing that regardless of, as Monica Cannon would call him, he has the intellectual gang signs behind his name, all the degrees
Shout
and
out
stuff.
to Monica Cannon. She's doing amazing things in Boston, here in
You know,
Boston.
but you know, the fact that I know he understands me baseline, because he's another Black man. And I just want to go there for 1 second and get back to your question. One of the changes, I guess, partially answer it, is that, Quincy, what I also realize is that as Black men, we don't get to say that we're scared.
Mm.
There's no space or real place for us generally in society, oftentimes in our relationships, and oftentimes even in our family, for us to be transparent and open about our fears. And so one of the things that this has also helped me with is, as you noted earlier, you called out something, when you are, a lot of people know you, like they do you, Quincy, they don't really know you. right? So
Yeah,
they're like, yeah, we know. Okay, cool. What's Quincy's favorite color? When's his
exactly.
birthday?
No, I always say, if you know me, what's my phone number?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah,
That's
okay.
how you know you if you know me.
What's the brother's phone number? When I was at city council office, I had my nephew worked for me, and I had people who would call the office all the time, be like, "Yeah, I'm Tito's family," and he's like, "Oh, really? What? Where are you?" And so, but what I would say is, the thing that also this has given me real heart for is dealing with my own deflection of mental health, right? Because one of the ways that Black men deal with mental health is to not deal with it at all,
Mm.
to not
Preach.
allow things to even get inside of us. And when we put that force field up, not only does it prevent or help hopefully prevent the effects of hate, but it also means that love doesn't get into you. It makes you impenetrable for the issue of people being able to love on you. And so for me, one of the things that really I just take heart with is that my friends brought me food. And as a single dude, I ate better during COVID than I'm eating now because they were bringing me real home cooked meals. Folks loved on me. And then there were these really Amari Parrish Jeffries, who's a really good friend of mine. He hosted for his birthday, he hosted an online kind of video party. And it was the weirdest thing ever. It was one of the best parties I had been to. And the liquor was coming out of bottle at my house. And was, and we were able to love on each other and make these connections that I don't necessarily know that I had really acknowledged at how important they were. And then I also had another group of friends, those 3 or 4 of us, and we would Zoom for hours on end, which just really soothed my soul and gave me the connectivity to go on. So those are some of the things in terms of I felt encouraged after COVID, and I haven't, but I also have been open to the fact that many gay men died in beds by themselves without FaceTime or any of the stuff that we have right now during the HIV crisis. And the one piece that I hear Donzel kind of speaking about is also how the hell we do stuff better. And I'm substituting the word stuff with something else that I would say. But how do we do stuff better? With this crisis, there is actually an opportunity in this crisis. How do we deliver for Demetrius? How are we delivering education better? How are we doing it cheaper? How are we being more effective? Like, what are the things that we can actually get out of this that we're in a better way rather than when we went into it? And the new normal being the fact that this stuff wasn't working for us before. The world wasn't working for us before. Money and the disparity in terms of how much money we have, that wasn't working for us before. How do we flip this so on the other side of COVID, Black folk have an opportunity that they didn't have prior?
Amen. Amen, counselor. Yeah. Hey, and we're going to get to that. And I'm glad you brought that up because we're going to actually save that to the end. But I always say when people say, I can't wait to get back to normal. And I'm like, fuck that. I don't want to go back to normal because normal wasn't that good. I don't know if y'all did what y'all was doing 5 months ago, but I know a lot of people that were struggling 5 months ago. So I don't want to go back to normal. I want to go back to something that looks good for Black and brown men. That's what I want. So going to Demetrius, what's next? Like after the 30 days, you come up out of it, you're feeling good, you're active, school is about to start. How is society treating you? Not your friends and family, the people that love you. That's a gimme. We know they're gonna love on you and got you to where you. But what about the people that you have to deal with that are not necessarily in your life, your real life?
Well, I must say that I've still been relatively isolated. I
Is that
live,
by
I live in,
choice? Is that by
I,
choice?
I'm not from Chicago, so
No.
my family is somewhere. My family is somewhere else.
Donzel
So
is from Chicago, by the way. Donzel, look out for my Falcon brother.
yeah. So
Make sure he is taken care of in Chi-Town.
I got you.
so and then with COVID, people have varying levels of anxiety. You know, I my wife has high anxiety about it. So it's just like if she see your Facebook and see that you're out and see that you're out and about, she doesn't want you anywhere near our house. And and so trying to find people, like I told you, so many people there are like facts in the science that have been quarantining too, to like to maybe like have a drink with or do something with. So we really have not been around people. But I am working. I'm doing a hybrid. I have been going, like I've been, promises I made to myself is what I really focused on. So I didn't really focus as much on other people as more as focusing on myself. So um, I've been in the studio. I've been recording. Um,
All right.
I've been going to the gym. Eating more healthily, and those are the things that I've been focusing on. But one of the things that is really on the forefront of my mind is just equity,
Okay.
and I think that COVID has really exposed um, inequity, but also exposed like the pervasive apathy toward people that don't have.
Yeah. And it
And
also
so,
has exposed selfishness as well. That's one thing I just want to add to what you said, just piggybacking on that.
yes, yes, it did. It has. People. I was in Costco, and and just really feeling sorry for my kids. My kids have been locked in the house. We live in the city. The parks have been closed. We, we share a common space with other people. So it's not like I could just send the kids outside and they just go play in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, I really feel sorry for them. I really, it's really, I'm really questioning how to be an effective parent in this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it has put a strain on my relationship, just because I'm an extrovert. My wife's an introvert, so she's fine. But me, like, I'm going crazy and I sometimes like I lash out, like I get irritable and, I just like, go get your nails done, go do something. So, like,
Yeah.
I'm,
And
I'm
I get
tired of
that.
you being, I'm tired of you being around me.
And it's funny, well, it's not funny, but it's interesting because I'm more like, I have turned into more of a personality like your wife. So when you're talking about your wife, I'm listening, I'm like, that sounds like me. So I want to go to Donzel for a little while with help on this because, as I said earlier, just in full transparency, I have been scared out of my mind. I have been so afraid to go outside. And I'm from Henderson, North Cock and back. We ain't scared of nothing. But for some reason, and I had to talk to my brother Philip Roundtree, and I'm gonna start talking to Donzel and some other therapist friends of mine, um, because and Tito brought it up earlier. When you're someone who knows everyone, it's hard to talk to somebody, and it's very hard. So I'm glad we're having this conversation so I can share it with you guys. But Donzel, for people like myself, and also for people who just don't have the privilege of going to a therapist or having Wi-Fi to go online and look up for people like yourself and brother Philip Browntree out of Philly, and brother Byron Jamal out of Atlanta, and brother or Yolo Achille out of LA. If they don't have that access and the privilege to talk to those individuals, what can they do? Talk to them. What can they do?
Sure. So I definitely believe in self-healing, and I think there's a lot of things that we can do. I
He
believe
said
Tito
self-healing,
mentioned
y'all,
it.
not self-medicating. I just want to put that
Hmm.
out there. He said
Hmm.
self-healing. He didn't give you the stamp to go self-medicate. It's a difference.
Right, and absolutely. So I think Tito touched on it a lot when he discussed his faith and spirituality. I just had a talk about that yesterday, and in short, I think the already mentioned that the mind, body, and spirit are all connected, and so any spiritual practices that could really help for you, that could be from a religious text, or it could be, I think someone before we started, I think it was you who lit up some sage.
Yep,
So
that's me.
sage can cleanse your space. If you're, you know, a believer of, Christianity, that's kind of the equivalent of maybe praying over your house, or anointing the walls with oil. So, there's, those spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, focusing on different proverbs. You can really become more present, but other spiritual practices could include utilizing crystals, various crystals promote and welcome different types of energy. So being really open to that and learning more about that. Sound baths, I absolutely love those. Uh, it's so there's a lot that you can do. Yoga, uh, stretching, exercising, going on walks, really being present. Something I like to do is if it's raining, I will just sit and listen to the rain. I'll listen to it, I'll watch it, I'll notice. We have a tree outside of our window in one part of our home, and so I'm able to kind of look at the droplets on the leaves and just kind of let my mind stay there for a moment.
You
And then,
have
of course,
that yoga voice, by the way, that calming voice.
thanks. I appreciate that. And so I think it's, really just expanding our viewpoint of what our healing looks like, and really exploring what calms us. For some people, that may be journaling. For other people, that may be doing something more creative, whether it's through painting, drawing, maybe creating lyrics. There's just countless things. And so I think the biggest thing I can encourage someone to do is to really take the time to get to know themselves more. Notice when they're relaxed, notice when they're calm, notice what makes them feel less anxious, and begin to incorporate those things into your daily practice and your daily life routine. And I believe that will really help with promoting stability and emotional regulation.
Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful and fruitful conversation. And before we end, I just want to get one last word from everyone. And I'm going to start with Demetrius and then Tito. And then actually, let's go Demetrius, Donzel, Tito to end it. And this question, this last question, and this is for the people out there who've watched this and they still want to go out and not wear your mask. They want to go out and not follow the CDC or whoever the officials are on this thing, and they just want to continue to be business as usual. Talk to them. What would you say to them if you had them? You're center stage and they're listening. They can't speak back to you. You just have to talk to them. What would you say, Demetrius, to those individuals when it refers to COVID-19 and where we are right now, especially to our young brothers? Because I'm going to make sure that Black and brown boys, especially on the East Coast, we can take care of the East Coast. I need y'all to focus on the Midwest. Me and Tito, we got the East Coast on lock. We'll make sure that our young brothers, our young Black and brown brothers, see this. Talk to them, Demetrius. What would you say to them?
That it's okay to have anxiety about our current state of affairs. I mean, we have compounded issues. We have this pandemic, but then we also have, you know, racial unrest that has been bubbling under the surface for decades, and economic disparity. All these things are coming to a head, you know, all at the same time, and I think some of this resistance to believe that COVID exists is due to the anxiety, is due to people feeling like the world as they know it is under attack, and that they're trying to hold on to what they feel they can control. And so I just really want them to think outside of themselves and think about the community, think about the collective, think about your grandma, that when you're going down in Houston to that party, that you could possibly bring back COVID. Like, you know, think about others. It literally takes nothing from you to put on a mask in public. It literally takes nothing from you, but it can literally take someone's world away if you don't do it. So I really believe that, you know, and right now, seek mental health services. Is nothing wrong with talking to someone. And because what I've learned about therapy is that it gives me the language to communicate myself. You know, and I think a lot of times, a lot of Black men do not have the emotional language to convey how they're feeling, other than anger and other than lust, you know, and I think that is like, therapy has empowered me to communicate my emotions more clearly to people. So
Thank you. Thank you. Donzel, same question for you. Your center stage is 5,000 Black young men. This is actually going to happen, by the way. I'm just, you know, foreshadowing this. Your center stage, 5,000 Black and brown boys. Speak to them.
Well, first, I just really want to thank Demetrius for eloquently validating and normalizing the emotional distress that Black men and boys feel, and really just giving us all permission to experience those feelings and removing any shame surrounding it. If I had anything to add as it pertained to encouraging Black men and boys, and as it pertains to being safe, I would really just encourage everyone to realize and to realize that your life matters. Your life matters. You are worthy of so much more than the risky behavior that's going to provide temporary pleasure. You're worth so much more than that, and you're so much more creative than that. There are so many other ways to enjoy life and to adjust, and I'd encourage them to rise to the occasion as it pertains to being safe and maximizing safe practices to preventing COVID. As it pertains to their mental health, I would say that you have survived so much and you've had to wear the armor. You had to use coping mechanisms that were available to you at the time. But it's okay to take the armor off. It's okay to rest. It's okay to breathe. It's okay to recuperate. You don't have to keep fighting. You don't have to keep being guarded, but you can begin to welcome love into your heart, into your mind, into your soul, and knowing that it's not a waste of time, that healing is real and it's available to you and it's for you.
Love it. Thank you. You ever thought about doing an audio like book? You have this voice that like goes well with like the meditation. I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Like I listen to a lot of meditation stuff, and you have that voice. I'm like I'm almost like going into my Zen moment. But you should try that. Try recording yourself doing some type of meditation type of things. All right, Mr. Jackson, you are center stage. It's 5,000 black and brown young men in the TD Bank North Garden. What are you gonna say to them? That's gonna happen. I'm calling it into existence.
No, you calling it ditto to what Demetrius and Donzel said? Because no, but they brothers, you matter. You matter. You matter. Your life matters. Your future matters. And what you've come to do while you're here matters. One of the things that we know about life is that we don't get out of it alive, but you can have life and love each and every day. Your actions matter. They can either help or hurt our community. You can and must protect yourself, your loved ones, and your families. Because as Donzel was talking about, I realize on a day-to-day basis, you see the destruction of our bodies, of our soul, and our lives blasted at you. And as a 45-year-old black man who didn't think he was going to live till he was 25, even though I was a nerd and I wasn't out in the streets, because all of the movies, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society, all of those movies when I was coming up told me I was not going to be here. You are meant to be here. You are meant to do something, not on a small scale, not as awkward or average. You are meant to do something awesome, fantastic, amazing. But to do that, to live out those things, we need you. Put on a mask, brother. Stay home if you can, if you're not at work. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your community, and know that if no one has ever told you, and another black man has never told you, I love you. I love you, and my love for you is also a push for you to be the best that you can be. The best man that you can be, the best community leader that you can be, the best in whatever field that you can be. I love you, and I'm going to love and put my shoulder into you to continue to push to be the best that you possibly can be. And I love Demetrius. I only kicked it with the brother for an hour. Y'all got a brother talking about being scared, and I don't even know if I've ever said I've been scared on one of these pieces. I want to tell Donzel, I'm getting rid of all my self-help books. You play I owe you $25 at least for this one, and then we got to have a rolling joint because I feel like I owe you a copay.
You can sign me up
I
too.
feel like I owe Donzel a copay for a session. And Quincy, I love you, brother, for making space, not asking nobody, but making space for Black men to be able to tell our truth. And I just hear, and I just, when I hear Demetrius, I am so happy that Demetrius stayed on the floor and didn't climb the ladder. And there's a proverbial component to that, as well as a real component to that, because I would have missed something in my walk here. And so I want to thank you for this platform to be able to love on, encourage, and push other Black men, because iron sharpens iron. Thank you so much for today.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is a great ending. And I just want to add to my 5,000 Black and brown boys that we're going to be talking to in a big stadium in the future. I'm foreshadowing this. It's okay to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. You might not wear that mask one day, but just be better than you were the day before. Promise me that. So we're going to end on that note. Again, I thank all three of y'all for coming and sharing space with the Love Village, being honest, being transparent, and courageous. So until we speak again, and we will speak again, because I just came up with the idea. So before I end, I want to challenge us to find the 4 people on this call, and I'm going to reach out to some other brothers all over the nation. I want to see if we can get 100 Black men on the phone to talk about mental health. And I want to see Black men from Boston, because that's where we live. That's where Tito and I live. And I want to see Black men from Chicago. I want to see Black men from New York. I want to see Black men from LA, Texas, North Carolina, you name it, Atlanta or Georgia, as they say. I want to see 100 Black men on a Zoom call, just kicking it, vibing, talking about life. I know that's going to be chaotic because everybody's going to want to speak, but I believe that we can do it in a manner where we have a speaking series where we have one keynote speaker and we just have 100 Black and brown brothers on the phone listening to that person. But it can be done, because I do not want to wait until we can go back outside to start doing shit. I want to do it now. If we start now, once we go back outside, things will be so much better, and it won't be back to normal. It will be what we desire it to be. So thank you again for joining the Love Village. And you guys have just been queued up, curating Black thoughts.